Quel, gran pezzo is a 1972 Italian comedy film directed by Mariano Laurenti. It gained a great commercial success and launched the commedia all'italiana genre. Walter Veltroni defined the film a cult title, and a title which is a piece of Italian history. The main actors, Edwige Fenech and Pippo Franco, were reunited for the similar Giovanni No Longthai, released the following year. During the Middle Ages, a clumsy knight returned home where his wife awaited him. Sensuous and beautiful, she has attracted several male admirers during his absence, but her chastity belt has maintained her faithfulness. Now is her chance to wrest the key from him and enjoy herself. The knight's portly friend has a similar problem with his equally gorgeous wife. And to top it off, both men have design on the other's wife, leading them to devise painful method to discourage the other from trespassing. It all began with Edwige Ubalda. We are referring to the Italian comedy, that lucky typical cinema genre of the 70s, labeled too hastily now as trash and at the time as soft flick. A genre conceived by the director Mariano Laurenti and the producer Luciano Martino, at that time companion of the Fenech, which is placed in the post-Decamerotic. The new idea is to combine the comedians, therefore the gag and the show jokes, a little cacciareni and the vulgarette with the procacity of female bodies. See Edwige Fenech often plays in situations of voyeurism and vaguely erotic. In the film in question, in fact, the comic vow of Pippo Franco and Umberto di Ossi drive the film, and is well reconciled with the alternating undressing of Fenech and Karin Schubert. Young women in the shower or peeking through the keyhole, but above all, excellent comedians. The box office blockbuster of the Ubalda was not repeated with the next film by the Laurenti-Fenech duo. A scene from the movie, the beautiful Antonia, first Monica and then Demonia. Precisely because he was not sufficiently supported by the comic component, Riccardo Gerone and Piero Focaccia could not stand the comparison with the Franco di Uso couple, and the beautiful shape of the Fenech were not enough to make him unforgettable movie. The same goes for the following. When women called themselves Madonnas, where among other things Fenech played a marginal role. We had to wait for the famous Giovannona Dishonor with Honor, with the return of Pippo Franco and the centrality of the scene for Fenech. Still happened immediately after with Vedova thank those who console her with Carlo Giuffre and again Fenech. The secret of the success of this genre of film had been patented: immediate comedy linked to eroticism, imagination and voyeurism, that had to have as location the places of everyday life. A title that is a piece of Italian cinema history. Ubalda is a great piece of That great piece of Ubalda is clearly a metaphor, where Ubalda, in addition to being a Madonna, is also that particular anatomical part that the Madonna hide under her cloth, and the Ubalda is all hot. But we are always talking about the Fenech or Mariano Laurenti. He was a specialist in finesse and noblesse oblige, and something like that unmistakably bears his trademark. The film he directed in 1972 scored several firsts. Meanwhile, it collected almost 10 times its cost. It gives way to that rib of Decamerotics with a Baccacian atmosphere, but with a system that is not necessarily related to the institutional novel, and boasts a rhyme title which, as mentioned, create a franchise. From that moment on, film will arrive with kilometer-long title and with a woman's name contained within. Moreover, not just merit, the Ubalda is the film that launches Fenech in the Italian male imagination. Since 1972, the dimension of that perfect body, that cat's face, that irresistible gaze take place. Fenech arrived at this film after a rhinoplasty that leaves her a nice post-operative on her upturned nose. So much so that Karin Schubert is asked to systematically dub her in the profile scenes so as to cover the handicap. And already because Ubalda also has Schubert as a co-star. A derby not to be laughed at between the Algerian and the German, who collide with blow of thigh and bare shoulder. The plot sees the military Olimpo and the miller, Maestro Oderisi, competing for their wives. According to the typical stylistic feature of the comedy, the two are destined to go perpetually in white, duped by their highly hot wives, who prefer to amuse themselves with the buoyant visual of the country, including the big brother Pino Ferrara, who never misses an opportunity to cleanse from the "It's a Pity Nice Young Night." That great piece of the all-hot Ubalda is the testing ground for critical prosopopia. I leave you to imagine the air of fire that the Guidobaldo Maria have poured over the film by Laurenti. However, surprisingly, Walter Veltroni in 1994 re-evaluated this filthy picoracia using elegiac word. He spoke of a minimalist nativity scene, and about the title he defined it as exceptional in the description of an atmosphere, as well as tender. Thanks also to this unexpected hagiography of the film, a whole critical counterculture of re-evolution flourished, which at least restored dignity to films that did not deserve to be disintegrated because they did. Perhaps the most beautiful and significant scene of the film, which lent itself to a double reading. On the one hand, the more immediate and superficial one, the erotic game between the two, made concrete by the incredible softness of Edwige's bounce at every step of the race. Whipped cream that seemed to have to evaporate at any moment toward the sky. A tense, spicy, and licentious that is faced with particular sweetness and delicacy by Laurenti, who resort to slow motion, to a joyful commentary music, and to the sunny presence of nature that welcome the two lovers. What happened is a dream, a projection of Pippo Franco's wishes, who would like to possess Madonna Ubalda, and only in the dream world. She gives herself to him, affectionate and reassuring. On the other hand, however, that moment so stately and serene isolates the two protagonists from the rest of the real world. And there are those who have seen in so much pain the momentary relief of human suffering, especially those inflicted by history on men. The oppression, the sorrows, the defeat, the bullying. Everything is put aside, hibernated, cancelled in the face of a single, eternal moment of well-being and contentment, in which the man, now almost a child, is welcomed into the arm of a buttery and generous lover, as if it were a maternal cuddle. The contemplation of a temple, which however is all carnal, and therefore visceral even in the instinct it unleashes. Even though this sort of thing is cheesy and incredibly silly, it does have to be said that Italians have a great sense of humor and certainly know how to put together a good comedy. Naturally, my main reason for seeing this film was the presence of the stunningly beautiful Edwige Fenech, and even though we never get to see her completely undressed, the lovely Miss Fenech never disappoint and certainly make an imposing presence on the film once she appears. It would appear that director Mariano Laurenti knew what the film's main selling point is, and as such make the audience wait almost half an hour before Fenech finally appear, but she is always worth the wait. The plot focuses on two feuding neighbors, Olympio, a knight, and Oderisi, a miller. Both have beautiful wives, and both have opted to keep them under lock and key with a chastity belt. However, when going to see Oderisi one day, Olympio sees his wife, Lady Ubalda, for the first time and decides he will do his utmost to have her. However, upon learning of this, Oderisi decides to take revenge. The film is set in the past, and this provides one of the film's biggest jokes. The set and the costume look like they cost a fistful of lire to put together, and it are clear that nobody really cared much about the setting. The jokes are mostly very childish and revolve around love, although there is also a lot of slapstick humor and various other gags to keep things going. Edwige Fenech is reunited with her Giovannino co-star Pippo Franco, who despite being somewhat annoying is actually really funny and provide a decent lead man role. The other lady is Karin Schubert, who is not as beautiful as Edwige but provide good support along with Umberto Di Ossi. The film is not exactly a masterpiece of plotting, but it flows well at least and never dry up to the extent of becoming boring. The music is amusing also and certainly fit the style of the film. Comedies aren't my favorite type of Italian movie, but the handful that I have seen have been really good, and Ubalda more than live up to my expectation. A romance town knight returned from war and get in a feud with local miller, which both men try to resolve by attempting to seduce the other's wife. They are stopped partly by a pair of locked steel chastity belt. This period love comedy was no doubt inspired partly by the German comedies